This is Abdullah Kashmuna, Class CIS274XML Programming. This is the challenge assignment, or Class 8. For this assignment, we're supposed to take this CSV file and then make an XML file out of it. So first thing I did is add these spaces and then add my tags in there, so that I will end up with something like this. And as you can see, there are tag betweens, but I already removed the commas on these files. Then it gave me my XML, and of course add the root element and then another one at the end, and that will give me my XML file that looks like this. However, it was not organized. As you can see, we can't really read. Each line contains a class, and that contains a number, class name, and so on. So what I did is I opened it with Notepad and then just save it. Of course, the file was valid to be open in Notepad, and XML Notepad just organized it for me like that. So I decided to go with the XML scheme definition, and to go through each value, because each class is the same as the next one. Each one has a class number, class name, CRN, and so on, and these all are being repeated without any change. So the XSD file would have been really easy to make, so I made one, and I decided to make it a little bit further by adding a restriction to each one. For example, let's start with the first one, the restriction on the element class number. It always contains capital letters, then numbers. Of course, the multiplication or the star sign, that means it can be as long as I want. It can be 0 to multiple values. And also, it will always end with an M. Same for the numbers, there are multiple values. I didn't try to see the pattern in them. As for the class name, it's a string. There's nothing to be changed in it because there is no pattern for it. It's all strings. As for the CRN class registration number, it's always 5 digits. So it's from 0 to 9, and it's always 5 digits. Of course, it's an integer. That's restriction for the CRN. As for the start date and the end date, it was kind of tricky in the beginning, because sometimes I have 1 digit or 2 digit when it comes to the first date, but the month is always first letter is capital, then small letter, and ends with 2018. Of course, there's always dashes in between them, so the restriction for this one, it was always easy. As for the end date, is the same as the start date. For the instructor email, that was the hard one, because I have the name of the instructor. Some of them actually null, so I needed to mark all of it as whether it exists or not, whether it's a 0 or a 1. Then I came to the instructor. If there is something, there's always instructor name. There's something instructor name that sometimes there is a dash, there's a single quote, there is a space in some names, so I needed to check for that, and if there is any of that, there will be also a name after it. Then there is a /. Then for the email, there's always letters, and for the emails, then as long as there's also numbers, and there's an @ sign, and always end up with this extension for the university. So I had to add if the email exists or not. And of course, there's if it exists, all of that. Now to validate it, make sure I always use this side. That shows me if I have any errors or anything. It's very useful because I was able to validate all the data, and I can check where my errors. And it's really helpful when it comes to find the different cases for each one. And I have no errors. Of course, when I run it, I run into multiple errors and help me identify the different cases. Like for the email, sometimes the email is null, sometimes the name there is, that's how I knew the different cases, and I was able to identify them all.